Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nastaprayasva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
For reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayana and Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise of transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact.
I haven't given class in a while, so sometimes I forget like the order of everything. So okay, so today we're gonna read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, the Purusha Sukta confirmed. And do we read the English first, or how's it? I forget. In what? So do we just read the translations?
Yeah, until 45.
We just read them together? Okay, so I can start and then we'll round robin. Okay. Although I am known as the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities and am expert in mystic powers and self-realization, although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth.
Therefore, it is best for me to surrender unto his feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot estimate the limits of its own expansion. So what can others do when the Lord himself is unable to estimate his own limits?
Since neither Lord Shiva, nor you, nor I could ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness, how can other demigods know it? And because all of us are bewildered by the illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only this manifested cosmos according to our individual ability.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is.
That supreme original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again.
Personality of Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material tinges. He is the absolute truth and the embodiment of full and perfect knowledge. He is all-pervading, without beginning or end, and without rival. O Narada, O great sage, the great thinkers can know him when completely freed from all material hankerings and when sheltered under undisturbed conditions of the senses. Otherwise, by untenable arguments, all is distorted, and the Lord disappears from our sight.
I see Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he is the master of eternal time, space, cause, and effects. Mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form of the Lord, Garbhodayaksi, Vishnu, and the sum total of all living beings, both moving and non-moving.
I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generations of living beings like Daksha, Prajapati, yourself, Narda, and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Buraloka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyahara planets, the leaders of the Charnaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshas, Urgas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satans, jinns, go ahead, Kusmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally posed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgivingness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in the form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth and the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. Okay, I think we're going back to 35, right? Soham samam nayaman nayastapomaya
Soham samamaya samaya
Rajapatinam abhivandita patihi
Prajapatinam abhivanditavati
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas
Ashtayam nipunam samahita
Samnadyakacham yata atma sambhava
Tanagagacham yata atasambhava Soham samamnaya maya sapamaya Prajapatinam abhavi Astaya yogam nipunam samahita Samnaya Yadacham Yada Atmasambhava. Soham Samanaya Maya Satamoya. Prajapatinam Abhivanditavati. Asaya Vimanam Samoya. Prajapatinam Abhivanditavati. Rastaya Vimanam Samoya.
Sa aham, myself, the great Brahma, Sammam Naya Maya, in the chain of disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, Tapamaya, successfully having undergone all austerities, Prajapatinam, of all the forefathers of living entities, Abhivandita, worshipable, Patihi, master, Ashtaya, successfully practiced, Yogam, mystic powers, Nipunam, very expert, Samahita, self-realized, Tam, supreme lord, Na, did not, properly understood, Yata, from whom, Atma, self, Sambhava, generated. Translation. Although I am known as the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities, and am expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth. Purport. Brahma, the greatest of all living creatures within the universe, is admitting his failure to know the Supreme Lord despite his vast learning in Vedic wisdom, despite his austerity, penance, mystic powers, and self-realization, and despite being worshipped by the great Prajapatis, the forefathers of the living entities. So, these qualifications are not sufficient to know the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji could not understand the Lord to a little extent only. Brahmaji could understand the Lord to a little extent only when he was trying to serve him by the eagerness of his heart. Hridal Kant Yavata, which is the devotional service mood. Therefore, the Lord can be only known by the sincere mood of eagerness for service, and not by any amount of material qualification as scientist or speculative philosopher, or by attainment of mystic powers. This fact is clearly corroborated in Bhagavad Gita 18:54-55. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochi Nakankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param Bhaktyamam Abhijanati Yavanyaschasmi Tattvataha Tato Mam Tattvato Gyatva Chite Tadanantaram. Only self-realization by attainment of the above high qualifications of Vedic wisdom, austerity, etc., can help one on the path of devotional service. But failing in devotional service, one remains still imperfect because even in that position of self-realization, one cannot factually know the Supreme Lord. By self-realization, one is qualified to become a devotee, and the devotee, by service mood, bhaktya, only can gradually know the personality of Godhead. One should not, however, misunderstand the import of vishate, enter into, as referring to merging into the existence of the Supreme. Even in material existence, one is merged in the existence of the Lord. no materialist can disentangle no materialist can disentangle self from matter, for the self is merged in the external energy of the Lord. As no layman can separate butter from milk, no one can extricate the merged no one can extricate the merged self from matter by acquiring some material qualification. This vishate, by devotion, bhaktya, means to be able to participate in the association of the Lord in person. Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, means to become free from material entanglement, and then to enter into the kingdom of God, become one like Him. Losing one's individuality is not the aim of bhakti yoga or the devotees of the Lord. There are 5 types of liberation. One of which is called Sayujya Mukti, or being merged in the existence or body of the Lord. The other forms of liberation maintain the individuality of the particle soul and involve being always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The word vishate, used in the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, is thus meant for the devotees who are not at all anxious for any kind of liberation. The devotees are satisfied simply in being engaged in the service of the Lord, regardless of the situation. Anyone want to read the last paragraph? Chris? Oh, I saw his hand.
Brahma is the first living being who directly learned the Vedic wisdom from the Lord. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Therefore, who can be a more learned Vedantist than Lord Brahma? He admits that in spite of his perfect knowledge in the Vedas, he was unable to know the glories of the Lord. Since no one can be more than Lord Brahma, how can a so-called Vedantist be perfectly cognizant of the absolute truth? The so-called Vedantist, therefore, cannot enter into the existence of the Lord without being trained in the matter of Bhakti Vedanta, or Vedanta plus Bhakti. Vedanta means self-realization, and Bhakti means the realization of the personality of Godhead to some extent. No one can know the personality of Godhead in full, but at least to a certain extent, one can know the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, by self-surrender and devotional attitude, and by nothing else. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Vedeshu Durlabham, or simply by study of the Vedanta, one can hardly find out the existence of the personality of Godhead, but the Lord is Adurlabham Atma Bhaktau, very easily available to his devotee. Srila Vyasadeva, therefore, was not satisfied simply with compiling the Vedanta Sutras, but over and above this, by the advice of his spiritual master Narada, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in order to understand the real import of Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the absolute medium by which to understand the absolute truth.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So everything is here in this translation and purport. Everything in the sense that the essence, Prabhupada describes and explains the essence of all the scripture right here. This is a perfect example of a qualified person, the most qualified person, Brahmaji. He is the original person of the universe, right? He is the first, he's the creator of this universe. And even him, who has full qualification from an intellect and power point of view, that he should be able to understand the Supreme Lord better than anybody, right? He is, like Prabhupada says here, he quotes the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. He's the original person who got this knowledge through the heart, right? He knows the Vedas better than anybody. And he has really topmost qualification, like I said. But even him, he is saying here that even though he is Brahma, and even though he is the first person in the disciplic succession, having received the knowledge of the Supreme Lord through the heart, he still cannot understand the Lord just by knowledge alone. Prabhupada explains that just by knowledge one can't understand the Lord. And so there's knowledge, there's jnana, and then there's vijnana, right? We know knowledge is what we're gaining here in class, right? That's what we come to class, we gain knowledge. It's very important. Actually, we should not discredit having knowledge, because that's the beginning, is receiving knowledge. But what's next? Once you receive knowledge, putting it into practice in our own lives. And that is vijnana. And that is realized knowledge. That's what turns into wisdom within yourself. Being able to put the knowledge to practice. So we hear chant Hare Krishna, right? And getting the mantra is actually such a turning point for so many people in their lives. We receive knowledge of Hare Krishna, a Maha Mantra, and we chant it, and it changes our lives. And it's not that we just know the mantra and then that's good enough. We chant it one time and that's it. There's practice, because the mantra is, there's many, we have many layers, right? Humans are like onions, just like Shrek says, right? We have many layers, right? And and the mantra purifies us, and one may feel relief. That's the first symptom of devotional service. We feel relief from all material anxieties, and that is such a relief for us. It's actually to start chanting Hare Krishna and taking up bhakti and getting relief from material miseries is like such a transformative and just incredible thing. And that's when, like, a lot of people get like the pure devotee syndrome and things like that, which are like is very common in new devotees, where we think we're more advanced than we are, but really we're just feeling so relieved and great that we're not being affected by the modes of material nature as much. And our mind is peaceful and at rest. But then that lasts for some time, but it's kind of like the honeymoon phase in a relationship, when you have, everything's good, easy, feels great. But then we get into Anarjana Vritti. And Anarjana Vritti is not an easy stage. In Anarjana Vritti, we start to realize that we got a lot of work to do. I remember my first trials in devotional service, where at first it was like, oh, everything's good, and like I was just riding on the bliss wave or whatever, and then all of a sudden like conflict arises, right, with other people, and then it's like, oh, what's going on? I thought this was supposed to be the end of conflict, but not necessarily. It's the beginning of Anarjana Vritti, which is literally thousands and millions of lifetimes worth of unwanted things in our heart start to come to surface, and it's reflected on other people that are around us. And that's the beauty of living in the ashram, or living in the ashram, we live close with people and you do service together, and there's gonna be conflict. It's inevitable. But that's actually a great opportunity for us to grow. In the material world, we disagree with somebody or get in a fight with somebody, and we don't want to talk to them anymore, and we want to, cancel them in our mind. We don't want to hear from them anymore. They don't exist anymore. We just move on, right? But in devotional service, we enter a whole new level of relationships, and those relationships you have with other devotees are sacred. And all the devotees, especially in the beginning of devotional service for me, those devotees are very close to my heart, because we went through some stuff together, right? We experienced lots of bliss, we experienced arguments, we experienced transformation and growth. And that's why when you live in the ashram, I always say those are like such precious years where you make lifelong friends because you are like brothers and sisters, like living in your family's house, and you go through crazy arguments, and you know. But in devotional service, it's different because we learn how to reflect on our own anarthas and see how we become humble really through it. Really, that's what I have seen happen to myself and others as we become humble. We have to admit our faults and we have to work through things. And that is real anartha vritti, becoming conscious of anarthas within yourself, not within others. That is the trick. It's really easy to see faults in other people. There is no lack of faults in this world. You can see faults everywhere. In this room, you can see faults outside, on your Instagram feed, walking down the street, everywhere. You will see faults because there are unlimited faults in this world. But the hardest thing is seeing faults within ourselves. And look at Brahma right here. He is the head of our disciplic succession, and he is finding fault in himself. And who are we? Little Jiva. We're like nothing compared to Brahma in size and intelligence and power. And we ourselves have a hard time seeing our faults. But Brahma, here he is. A person who's more qualified than anybody. He is seeing fault in himself. And we probably look at him and say, there's no fault in Brahma, right? He's Brahma. Like, he's worshipable. But Brahma himself is showing by example. He sees fault in himself. So one has to chant Hare Krishna and at the same time become conscious of oneself's anarthas and uproot them through chanting and performing devotional service. Of course, that will naturally happen, but also consciously change. Like, I see something in myself that I do when this happens. And it's not that I just say, well, that's just me. Because it's not us. That's an anartha. That's a weed. And so either we have to pull it out or another devotee is going to help us pull it out, or a combination of both, because there's some really... I was literally planting some shrubs and flowers in the garden yesterday, and I had to like uproot some roots, and sometimes I almost broke my shovel because it wasn't a good enough shovel, because I was having to chop some roots so I could plant a flower in the garden. So that's what we have to do. We sometimes have to really get in there. We have deep-rooted lifetimes of trauma and bad habits that formed in ourselves that we have to uproot. And then once we do that, then we can actually start to feel then we enter the next nishta, right? Or what is it? It's a nartana vritti nishta. It's nishta. See, Nartana's original name is also devotional, so I was confirming with Nishta. I just wanted to make sure. I haven't taught Bhakti Shastri in a couple of years, so gotta dust off the old books. But then one's actually fixed. Then one can start to like feel hints of ecstasy and start feeling higher levels of devotional service, like the mellows of devotional service. But when we're in the Nartana Vritti, it's little glimpses. And I recently asked my spiritual master about when we go to a festival like Sadhu Sangha, or Sadhu Sangha comes to Alachua. That one night, you all were there, right? That was a crazy night here. I was like, wow. You feel ecstatic, and you feel like you're liberated, and you feel like you're advanced, and that you've reached the pure platform. And then what happens? And I asked my spiritual master, like, how do we hang on to that? And he told it was a group of us, small disciples group. And he said that, in short, I'm gonna paraphrase and try to say what I remember, but he said that when we go to a festival, or he actually used more of the term pilgrimage. Sadhu Sangha is a pilgrimage, right? When we go on pilgrimage, we will feel a sneak peek. We will get a sneak peek of what it's like to be on the transcendental platform in full devotional service and chanting purely. We get a little sneak peek. It's like kind of like when Prabhupada was on the planet. Like devotees were able to like make advancement very quickly and start feeling those feelings very quickly because they were around Prabhupada, right? And so when you're together and you're around advanced souls, you get that little sneak peek because they bring you there. They help bring you there, right? But then he says, then you go back to your routine of what your life, your ashram, whether it be Krishna House Ashram or Grihastha Ashram. And then you have to do that for yourself every day. You have to get fired up. I think that was the words. I can't exactly remember the words, but he said basically you have to fire yourself up every day and motivate. That's what the word, motivate yourself. Or you have to have, basically the inspiration. You have to generate the inspiration. I believe that's more along the lines of what he was saying. You have to, but I think you understand, like you have to have that in your daily life that fires you up and keeps you going and keeps you feeling like you're in that fire. He said you have to do that every day. And so because to get to that level will take a long time for you to actually feel that all the time. But you get the sneak peek, like a little taste, draw you along, right? So that's what's nice about pilgrimage or festivals or like special guests coming here is we get that little taste, and we get that in the beginning of devotional service too. It's like a good dose of that, where it's like, yeah, like Krishna's gonna give you a lot of mercy, and you're gonna feel that and relief, and you're gonna feel super motivated and fired up. But for most people, I would say that you will reach a point where it becomes hard, and that's a test. Where it says, are you going to keep going, or are you gonna turn back? And have you ever seen a squirrel, like a little squirrel, try to cross the road, and he's almost across the road, your car's coming, and you know if that squirrel just keeps going, he'll be fine and make it. But guess what? They turn around, and then they get hit by a car. That literally happened to me, unfortunately, not too long ago. I was like, the little guy is almost all the way across, and he turned around, and I couldn't avoid. I was going 60 miles an hour. But that's us. That's us. Like a lot of times we'll be going, and it's hard, and it's so close. We're so close, and if we just kept going, then we would be fine. But then we turn around, and we could literally lose everything. So we have to keep going. Even when the big scary car is coming, or whatever it is, the anartha is there, the conflict is there. We have to just keep going because we're actually really close to breaking through, and we're gonna be fine. We just gotta keep on. And turning around is in life, not just devotional service, but many times turning around could be a lot worse. We just got to keep going. But the instinct is going to be turn around. It was more comfortable before. I feel safe there. But it's an illusion. It was not. It's actually not. You have to keep going. I just want to make sure I'm conscious of time. What is it? I got 12 minutes. Okay, well, maybe I will open it up. We'll open up the floor because I like to go back and forth and stir the pot a bit. So yeah, in conclusion, even though Brahma or any demigod, any learned entity, actually they have full qualification to understand the Vedas and whatnot, but what they have to really develop is devotional service. That is the essence of everything. Prabhupada, it's within every one of his purports, is that better than liberation, better than gathering intelligence just for the sake of gathering intelligence, is to become a devotee, devoted. So even Brahma has full ability to understand every little aspect of this universe, even. Well, to speak about the Vedas, memorize every single word, you know? But really the essence is devotion. And the last purport talks about this, right? Narada Muni, he compiled Srimad Bhagavatam in order to understand the real import of Vedanta. And the Bhagavatam is the absolute medium by which to understand the absolute truth. But not just understand them, but actually become devoted to. There's many Vedas, there's many books of knowledge, teachings, and histories of the world. Srimad Bhagavatam is there to discuss what is the essence. What is the essence of it all? There's the same happenings that we can look at different perspectives, but the Bhagavatam and the commentary from those coming in the line of disciplic succession from Brahma, the original, the head of our Sampradaya, is what's the essence of it? It's like Srimad Bhagavatam is that also the essence, but also the essence of the essence is the commentary. So they, even though Bhagavatam is there to teach this, like many people have commented Mayavadis and whatnot on Bhagavatam and like totally miss it. It's like it's so unreal. If you've ever read another version of Bhagavad Gita, like another translation and commentary, and like Prabhupada's Gita, and you're just like, how did they miss that one? How did they miss it? It's like, it seems like some of these verses in Bhagavad Gita are actually more direct than indirect when it comes to devotional service. Where did that come from? Where is this understanding? Literally, Prabhupada says, like, even when it says there's a personality of Godhead, they'll try to make it impersonal. So even they have lots of knowledge. They've memorized whole Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, even. They may not even understand. Maybe not understand the purport. What is the essence of Bhagavatam? We have it right here, and we're very fortunate. We take it for granted. I could say, at least for myself, but actually it's right here, like the essence of everything. We don't have to. We get it just handed to us very easily, whereas others have to work lifetimes to come to even Aham Brahmasmi, like the realization of that I am the spirit, not the self, or not the material body. So I'll end there. Any comments or questions? Nartana?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. A lot of really nice points. Yeah, like what you're saying about like having to like motivate ourselves every day. How do you like? Can you elaborate more? Like what motivates you every day, or like what are some things that we can try and do to motivate ourselves every day? Because I found myself in like streaks of being like nishta, like like super steady, like getting up super early, and like I feel so great. Like I'm like day 21, but then like like a few like a few days go by and it's just not great. So it's like how do I maintain enthusiasm and like motivate myself, psych myself out to do devotional service?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also human just like you, so I go through the same things. I feel like for me, I also go through streaks, and I've been very busy with work lately, and it takes a lot of my life because I have my own business, so it's basically 24/7 sometimes. So I struggle with that. But japa is my solace. I feel like I can always take a break to chant japa, and I'll feel a million times better afterwards, and it's the greatest thing. If anything, japa, like if I can't do any chanting, any reading or anything, japa is the cornerstone to my building of life. So for me, that or kirtan that I love. I love John V. Harrison's albums and kirtans. So I always, if I'm like, I need to like get inspired and I need to feel spiritual. I'll just put on John and Mary's. Her voice speaks to my soul. Just very like whatever motivates you audibly. I feel like, at least for me, audibly really helps. I mean, everything starts here, right? The Maha Mantra comes to the ear and to the heart. So I'll put on a lecture or listen to kirtan. And if anything, you know, if you get up in the morning, just put that on or whatever throughout the day. You can do that. That's what gets me. I love music and dance. So moving also helps you get out of the funks. The body and the mind are connected. So check out some kirtan, dance around in your room. I don't know that, but like we all are different. So something that motivates and inspires me might be different from you. So maybe it's calling a friend, or there's always, that's why a community is there. I feel like community is so powerful that we can literally come to the temple room or do service with devotees, and you'll feel it's contagious. Devotional service. Steadiness in this world is difficult, so that's why we need sangha. Because by ourselves, we're a weak little entity out there in the material world. We need the more sticks to bundle ourselves with, then we can become more strong and inspired. Be around people who inspire us. I think that's important. Yeah, so many things. We're all different though, so got to figure out what works for us. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah. Gopal Prabhu, he said he reads every day, otherwise he forgets why he's doing this. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Like Srila Prabhupada's words on paper will get you motivated. And then the other thing that helps for me, I noticed like if I wanted to get inspired about anything I'm doing, like my business or like my hobbies, I just like watch some YouTube videos of people that I'm inspired doing it, and then I get inspired. In the same way, I notice like if I watch some like vintage videos of like all the devotees, you know, around Srila Prabhupada, or like doing Rath Yatra, like in the Remembering Srila Prabhupada videos, I get so hyped and I'm like, I want to be a devotee, you know? And then I look around, I'm like, oh, well, I actually have that opportunity to be that, like right now. So when we were playing that during lunch, man, it just used to just like, you know.
Oh, remembering for following.
Yeah, just even if the sound wasn't on, just watching, you know, the footage, man, of all the original devotees. And so that's what I want to share. But then my question is about the like roots popping up in Narta Vritti stage. I noticed since I got deeper into my chanting, it's interesting the days that I feel like I have some of the strongest like chanting or sadhana, or it's like a festival and I'm like, you know, done fasting in my service that day and I've done extra rounds and we're at the end of the day. It's like that's when sometimes it pops up and I just have this weird, what you had said, the fault finding mind. It's like a light switch. And I'm like, I'm not even like that usually, you know, but then when I get to this like place where I feel like, let's say, you know, I feel lifted up, then that's when its head pops up. So my question is like, you know, how do I deal with that? Usually I just white knuckle it until I go to sleep and then I wake up the next day and I feel better. But you know what I mean? Is there any way to like capitalize or take advantage on that root when it exposes itself, like you're saying, garden?
That's a good point. A few things come to mind. Recognizing it is very, I mean, even recognizing it in the first place is I mean, that's an amazing thing, is to recognize that you have that. So you're becoming conscious of it. So you have the choice to ignore it, or you have a choice to do something about it, or consciously consciously not act on your thought. And that's when you start to train yourself. It's a habit. That's basically what it is. It's a bad habit to fault find, right? Or to see faults in others and not yourself. Usually we see our own faults in other people. The things that we don't like about other people, a lot of times we have inside ourselves. So you could see, how is it that I'm like that in some way? It might not be the same exactly, but it's like, what is it that's triggering me to feel this way about this person? Why is this coming up for me? It doesn't feel good. Like when you fall fine, it doesn't feel good. So like, why am I doing that to myself and other people? Maybe I'm subtly already, like maybe I'm torturing people around me and I don't even know it. Tormenting people, with even little comments and things like that. We could be putting other people down because we feel insecure, or we feel something within ourselves. I'm speaking quite vaguely because it could be so many things, right? But not acting on your impulses to fault find, because you could be like, oh, that devotee is like so fanatical, or he's so when he like hits the drum that way or something, it's like it's just like something about a sniffle or whatever, like just like we got to see, like, even just not acting on it, be like, why the heck are you so blah 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 blah, or just like lashing out. That's just not doing that is very advanced, because most people just like, they think something, they do it, or they say something without thinking, right? So a Brahmin, it's a Brahminical quality to slow down and think before speaking or acting. So even just doing that is advancing. So and that's why it happens at one of these festivals, because we're like launched into a higher platform than we are really, and then we're around sangha, a lot of sangha. So usually that brings out those anarthas. And then it's our decision. Do we do something about it or not? And what I mean by not is like playing into what your mind thinks and acting on it, but actually not engaging is doing something in the sense of like advancement, right? Like say I'm like doing something that you really don't like, and you could just be a jerk, and you could like, or do something that like would probably offend me, or probably rub me wrong or whatnot, and you also won't feel great about it afterwards, but we think that it would make us feel great. You could do it, you can act on it, right? Or you could just not, and just be like, oh, like, well, maybe like that's an interesting thought, and I think that's not a good way to think. I should adjust my mentality. I should start seeing positive aspects. And then it's like Vaisheshwara talks about this a lot. It's like if we glorify others, we actually make advancement. Actually, we gain their good qualities. But if you like highlight people's negative qualities, we gain those negative qualities multiple times. So it's actually better just like uplift everybody all the time, and then we feel uplifted, and other people feel uplifted, and then that's just a lighter way to live and a greater way to live. Bring up the others around you, and in the material world, it's put others down and lift yourself up, right? But actually, in devotional worlds, lift others up, and then you get lifted up too. It's not put ourselves down either. Like a lot of people think, oh, humble is putting myself oh, I'm not worthy and I'm this and this, but that's also self-centered too. So we have to like lift other people up around us, and then we'll just keeps going. And so I think that's a great way to do it. And yeah, white knuckling, that can be good to a certain extent, but we have to also see if are we repressing or are we actually dealing with our thoughts, especially if they come up over and over again. It's maybe better to like, okay, what can I do? Oh, maybe I should just praise them or praise this person or do something positive rather than just not. I think it's time for Prashant. Okay. Yeah, we can real quick.
I just like thought of this question because it comes up so much. How to deal with it when we become critical of people, devotees, situations. I was just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam fourth canto, and it really hit me on the head with it. Like I was just thinking when I read how Daksha, although he was very, very qualified in his material in a material sense, because he was so puffed up, he found faults in Lord Shiva, and he had a good reason for it because Lord Shiva was so renounced that he had nothing, and his daughter married Lord Shiva, and Daksha was just like, who is this, hobo? But he's like completely unable. He's like unable, he's like unable to see the spiritual quality of Lord Shiva. And usually when we're fault finding, we're just like that. We cannot see the spirit in that person. We just see the body, the engagement that's going on there. And what ends up happening is Daksha gets a head of a goat. Yeah. And he gets severely punished. So it just goes to show, like, actually, we gotta. It's like that reckoning. First of all, stops us from actually doing it, and to check ourselves. And then I remember I couldn't find the verse. I was trying to find it, but there was one particular verse in the purport that Srila Prabhupada says that Daksha went about doing that because if he just if we usually do that, we judge because we are narrow-minded. Like it's this narrow-minded. It's like usually if we can see different perspective, if we just become patient, he says, then we can actually see the other perspectives. So I think patience plays a role in that. I'm personally just beginning to practice that, and I'm finding it not easy, but it's very cooling, very, very nice when you actually try to do that.
Yes, and that's a Brahminical quality is patience, right? Lord goodness quality. Because it's hard. Think about traffic. Like people get so passionate in traffic. There's no patience, Even if someone is like a few seconds late on like going after the light turns green, people become impatient and honk, just cause disturbance, right? It's just like makes everybody upset. Like no one likes to be honked at, right? Except in India. In India, it's like courtesy, right? In America, you honk at somebody like us, but it's like no one has. Yeah. But like actually, waiting and just being patient. Maybe the person in front hasn't seen it yet and understanding where they're at. And just it's a mode of goodness. It's like thinking before speaking, or acting, especially. In this age, we're not held accountable for our thoughts in this age like we are at other ages, because you can sin in your mind and other ages, and you get karma from that. But in this age, we don't. Our minds are so disturbed in Kali Yuga that we're not we're not held accountable for those thoughts. I know. So yeah, we can let thoughts come and go in this age and not. And actually, it's like if we act and we say, then we are actually held accountable. So we have the opportunity. If it goes through here, we have the opportunity to act or not act, and being patient. And just sometimes it's like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't say that because I might offend somebody, or I might tread backwards if I say this, or I'll say this instead, which is a greater thing. It's like something bigger, like being a bigger person, you'll say something to actually uplift others or help the situation rather than just rather than disturbing the situation. So we always have the choice. Every moment we have the choice, and yeah, just slowing down and thinking and looking within ourselves can help us make advancement and not help us sink. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Govinde Namo Brahmani Vaishnave Svalpa Punya Gatam Rajan Vishvaso Nagajayate. Fortunate persons develop faith in Mahaprasad.
Spiritual remembrance of the Lord in the day